of seconds. And we are live.
Yay!
Hello and welcome, my people. We are live again. We are back after a bit of a holiday break here. And I'm so excited for today, for this conversation, because it's all about the expectations and leaning into, what we might be inclined to do or what we've been told and taught to do at this time of year versus what we're actually feeling into. And I can't think of a better person to have this dialogue with than my guest today, who is dialing in from Australia, which is why we're doing this at a different time than we're normally doing this. But hey, depending on how many viewers we get, we may actually change it to this time. So let me first introduce myself. I'm Yvonne Winkler. I'm your host for the Freedom Seeker Show, where we have unfiltered conversations that matter to women. And I'm the CEO of Lotus Consulting, Inc., a company on a mission to support women's well-being through harmony and collaboration and empowerment. And I'm also a certified Berkman professional. I'm a huge mental health advocate, and I'm a speaker, facilitator, author, schnauzer mama, and of course, a huge nature lover. And today I have here with me SzeWing Vetault, and she is a coach and an author as well, and a creative entrepreneur. But the entrepreneur didn't fit on the title, so I just left a creative because she's created some really magical products, and we'll hopefully get to talk a little bit about that. Welcome, SzeWing. It's so nice to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Yvonne, for having me, and especially on a different time zone. So really appreciate the opportunity to chat and talk about all the things that we care about for women, and anything that it's, deeply interesting for intellectual and soulful purposes.
Exactly. I created the Freedom Seeker Show, SzeWing. I know you have a podcast as well. So I know you know what I'm talking about from this place of I love conversations and I love meaningful conversations, and going deep. And so my interest for the Freedom Seeker Show was to create a space where we can have these meaningful conversations, and lean into more of a focus of how does business and entrepreneurship and work, career, all mesh up for women specifically. And I know that this is a topic that is straight to your heart as well, because that's who you are, and that's what you've based most of your work on. How long have you been working within your genre of books and creating programs and planners and so on?
I think, the journey started probably about 10 years ago but I started with really, a bit about the background. I was an economist, and then I changed that and I moved into movie industry. So I was working in creatives for a few years, and then I hit a bottleneck, and then somewhere I randomly walk into more the learning development field. But during all this time, I'm always very interested in the spiritual side of things. So I started with, learning about tarot cards, meditation, yoga, energy healing, past life regression. I have all these qualifications, but then it's only when I reached the point where I got certified as a life coach, I really felt that it's my tool and the language to help other women on my journey. So when I started, I was, say, single and had nothing. But now, obviously, life stages changing. Now I'm a mom of two. I'm a little bit older, but then it's still the sort of the same mission, where it's really helping women on their journey, finding the purpose in a more like using the spiritual connection, as well as, from my background, very analytical, very strategic, very left brain. But I think I can identify so many women out there is using that like energy, the masculine energy, the very left brain way of doing things. But at some point they need to connect to the feminine energy, the receptivity, maybe the right brain kind of thing, to really create a life that it's harmonious and full. And I think I have walked the journey myself, and I guess that's where I'm heading into, I'm continuously evolving in that space, which is always a combination of both, where you need to take action, but it has to be inspired action. So the spiritual side is always, very important to me. So that's sort of how I started. And I think I started to do more coaching and the product in the last 5-7 years. But I started with, like everyone else, you do your yoga, your meditation, and all that stuff to start.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, I love that you said that, because that's exactly where it starts. So none of us start out, being the coach and then we develop all these things. We all walk our journey first and discover what we're really good at, and what really lights us up along the way for this. And that's what I heard you say. I also wanted to reflect back to the comment about the very strategic meets the spiritual side of things. Was that missing for you when you were an economist? Was the spiritual feminine side of things
I
missing?
don't know whether it was missing, but it was something that I remember after, when I finished work, I was always trying to go to bookstore to read those books. And if I hear there is like a gathering for meditation and chakra healing, I will always sign up. So that's something always my side interest. But I think it's when I was coming of age that I started to merge the two together, because I know that by following my intuition and aligning with, who I really am, my work improve or my life improve. Then I see it's not that this is the part that I do 9 to 5. That's the part from 5 to 9. It's actually it's together. And to create a better life, I feel that you need to merge the two. It's like, it's masculine and feminine energy. It's not one better than the other. It's about how you're going to work together with both energy. So I think it's a sacred union, like not just the men and women, or like not just in a relationship sense. When I talk about sacred union, I think even combining that sort of energy in your work life, in your personal life, that's a very important thing to know if you want to live a life that is the fullest, and or like to reach your life purpose.
Absolutely. I love this so much. You're speaking my language, SzeWing. It's so true, because, and I'll take it a step further. I heard a quote a long time ago from one of my mentors. Her name is Sze Wing, and she said, "The feminine without the masculine is like a river without its banks." And I visually, I just think of it all the time. I think of that because if we were just in flow all the time and we didn't have any structure or no banks, what happens is we just scout out and we spread ourselves too thin, and we're just floating in space, and we don't know where we're going and where we're coming from. Whereas when we have the structure and the banks in place, we can still flow and be in ease within the structure and the boundaries of the banks. And that's my visual that's guiding me in my business. And with a friend and colleague of mine, we developed the Harmony Planner. And we called it the Harmony Planner because it's not about balance. It's about harmonizing the masculine and the feminine, the structure and the flow, the values of strategy and the values of inner wisdom and intuition. And so I hear and I feel what you're saying to be very true for me as well. That's exactly what brought me to this space.
I love it. And I also came into my mind when you were talking is that in my second book, I talk a lot about archetypes, the god archetype. And one of them is like, I immediately think of Athena. Like Athena is basically a very strategic person. She's a symbol of like the goddess of wisdom. She's the one who take men to war, and then she helped them to win. But she's the father's daughter. and she was the one who strategized for the militaries. So the thing is that she used her talent and her skill to influence and help them to strategize, but she was working with men along with them. And what strikes me so much is that you kind of needed both. Like, she offers the brain, they offer the muscle in that scenario. But that's when they win the war, when she was helping Odysseus to come home. It's like she whispered into his ears to give him tips and advice so that he could overcome all the challenges. And I love that sort of yin and yang thing. And that's when we accomplish great things, whether you use both of your feminine and masculine energy to do your projects, or you work with other men in your project. It doesn't matter. But I really love that, it's a harmony, not balance. Sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes you do more in one day than the other. So I really love that.
Yeah, yeah. And I see you have a weekly planner as well. So is that
Yeah.
very much based on this wisdom as well?
In a slightly different tone, as in, you touch on this. This is January, people thinking about goals, let's make it happen, rah, rah, rah. And a lot of times, we actually feel so defeated that if we didn't say a resolution that I'm not going to eat sugar or gluten or dairy, and then within a week, it's suddenly a lot of cookies or whatever. I think, so for me, the planner, actually, I have it here. So for me, it's like, I call it a wondrous year.
A wondrous year, yeah.
Um, the way I set it up is that it's not about goals, about setting intention. So, you take action, but like, so maybe my goal is feeling joyous and abundant through what? Meaningful work, through, work that pay me well. So
Yeah.
you set out the intention, how you feel before you do the goals, like because sometimes things change, and then your goals may be achieved, but actually didn't get what you really want in terms of feelings and things that you really need. So I like to set intention for the
Mhm.
year, and then the goals will be maybe certain items that will help me to achieve that. So the planner had the emphasis on doing the intention, and I don't like sort of checklist, to-do list. It's more weekly to do planner, because sometimes you want to do 10 things today, but it just doesn't happen. So I like the weekly, that you got more room
Yeah.
to finish, depends on your energy. So it's very much based on that sort of thinking when I design it. Yeah.
Ah, this is such a beautiful guidance into this topic, because one of the things that really struck me is we did like a harmony planning workshop just before the holidays, because of that inner urge to plan for the next year. And what struck me while we were doing the retreat was that it's not really in alignment. Like, I'm following the Gregorian calendar rather than the intuition that was guiding me to just quiet down, settle up. Like, I just wanted to wrap up, finish up
Mm,
whatever I had going on, and go into my season of rest and reflect. And rest and reflect doesn't call for planning. Rest and reflect calls for reflection and for resting. And so I was working against my own model, basically. But what I realized also is how many women in my circle were struggling with the same thing. They were, when I proposed that we wouldn't set goals, you should have seen how the
like,
backs went up.
oh,
No, they were really worried about it. They were like, oh my God,
really?
how can I go into the next year without plans? How can I, like, I need to know what my word is for the year. I need to know what I'm doing next year. And if I don't have that by January 1st, I already failed. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We need to bring this back.
Mm,
So I, when I was reading some of the topics that you really are passionate of talking about, I saw this, soul care to stay connected and grounded. And I really thought that this might be a good topic for the Freedom Seeker community, because um, what can we do? What do you do
mm,
when we are feeling this pull from decades of being told that by January 1 we need to have the goals, the checklist, the, you know, the
Mm,
word for the year and all of this stuff, but we're feeling not ready for it. And
yeah.
there's this pull and push, and we don't know what to do. So what is a tip from you that
Yeah.
would keep us grounded and
I
connected?
love to talk about this because the thing is that I'm an overdoer myself. I'm suffering for this like last 4 decades. The thing is, what I have learned from my suffering is that yes, we need to take goals, we need to take action lists, da da da, but not until you're ready. When I say ready, is that you need to be emotionally, physically, mentally ready. So let's say if you haven't been well, that's just not the best place to plan and feel it.
Mm-hmm.
What is really important for next year, and you will like to, tendency is that you like to go to the candy store, you want to buy everything, but what is really important to you, you don't get that sense of clarity until you are in a good place, where if your health is suffering, that's not going to be optimal. And when emotionally, say you are still nursing a wound, emotional situation, someone passed away or you got a breakup, things like that. So not everyone is ready by January the 1st. That just let's start. And sometimes the moon cycle, the Mercury retrograde, there's many influences. Or you're not sure about your job, maybe you want to change career, but you haven't feel it right, like as in what exactly should be my next step yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you push yourself to make your plan. Then you dig all the to-do list. And what happens is that you're going to cross it, you're going to change it, and you feel you failed because you haven't done everything you want to. So my advice is always you make sure you're in the right place. So you might be very much in the right place the last week of December, you're ready to do this. You have to tune in and feel it. Be honest with yourself. But if you feel like, oh, I'm so sick from all the dinner parties, my mind is so clouded, I can't do this, then you wait. Because what I've noticed with especially lunar cycle and women's cycle is that when you are clear, when you're in a receptive mode, you just like, okay, I need to do this. This is what I really want. This is my true calling. You get it really clear, and then okay, I need to call this person. Oh, someone showed me this. You become so tuned in. So you may have 5 things only to do on your list, but everything will lead you to better opportunities, and you become way more productive and efficient when you plan like that. So first of all, it's getting yourself in the ready place, which could be make sure you rested, make sure you feel good, meditation, go outside, connect to nature, all these things that we do to make us feel good. Once you get in that place, then yes, go ahead and plan and do what you feel you're inspired to do, but not until then. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing I say.
Yeah, and I love that. I always say that too. I mean, we definitely need a plan, but the
Mm,
plan starts with actually getting ourselves ready first, and really leaning into thinking about it. And I think the closest example I would have, for a practical example that I would have for this, is when we start a project and we just get into the doing right away. How much
mm,
time gets wasted? And how many resources get wasted? Not just time, all resources get wasted because we go down this rabbit hole and then realize, like halfway through, or maybe when we get to the end, that that wasn't at all what we wanted to achieve. We needed to actually sit back and take a step back first and say, what's the intention here? What is it that we want to create? And then create from that place. And speaking to what you said too about it coming with ease, like I think most of us can probably relate or think of a time when we tried to create something and it just wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming with ease to us. Like it was so difficult to come up with the language, or with maybe even an image or the colors or whatever it is that we wanted to create. And and that to me is an indicator that I'm just not
mm,
ready, that I don't have all the information that I need in order to create this. So I really love that. What I'm curious about is, you know this, I'm sure you do, when the action creates the actual um, the actual momentum and the
mm.
ideas. How do you distinguish between, I'm starting from a place of being ready to then going to doing,
Mm.
and
I know
uh,
what you mean.
yeah,
I
okay.
know. Okay, so let's take a step back on, that how do you know you're ready? How do you know? Like, I would actually go back to, the scenario you proposed, where you're like, I'm at the end of the project phase 3, but this doesn't even feel right, and what am I getting at? Like, what am I doing? That is indication of, you ask yourself, 3 months ago, did I feel there's a little voice saying, maybe I shouldn't do this. I'm just doing it for the other. Maybe I should have, whatever, blah, because someone say that, because there's many teachers telling you should do like 4 campaign a year, blah, blah, blah. I think it's about that inner voice, that inner knowing that our soul is telling us where to go, versus our ego and saying, you got to do this, otherwise people is going to be so much better, more successful than you, and you are nothing. Like, there's this soul talking to you when you are in a quiet place where you really hear what your heart leading you, versus the ego is saying, you better hurry, you better start doing. So the distinction between hearing these two, for me, is the daily practice. It's it's a muscle. So if you already have a practice that it's, I say, journaling or meditation or walking in the woods, when you do it enough, you have a muscles to know, am I running too much too fast versus I'm running a good pace. It's like in and on. That's the art of it all. No one can tell you, is this idea from God or this idea from your ego. You have been excuse me, the one to discern. And the way to be able to discern it, it's through a practice to build up that intuitive muscle. And sometimes I make a mistake too. Sometimes I think, that must be my soul telling me, la la. But then turns out that was just me worry about missing out. So that's like, it's not like a gamble. It's about, for me, it's about building up that muscle so you can discern. And the more you pay attention to that, and also observing the synchronicity and what the universe is opening up door for you or shutting them, then you also get that feedback system to know whether you're on the right path, right? So for me, it's definitely an art, and no one can do it perfect. We're still going to make mistakes, but it's by knowing it, so then you are more conscious about this. Then you ask yourself this question. If there's a little red flag somewhere, you pay attention to it. So that's the way I do it.
Yeah. And so the art, just like any art, it's something that you practice. It's something that you start, at some point you just start wherever you're at, and then you build upon that. You have, so am I understanding this right? You have published 2 books now, or you've published one and you're writing a second one?
No, I have a very short book. The first one, it was only ebook, but it's on Amazon. And then I did another one, which is The Goddess with Many Faces. That one is both print and ebook. Now I'm working on the third one, which is called A Wondrous Way of Being, which is echoing this sort of concepts, whether it's nurturing your feminine and masculine harmony, or looking at life as a cycle of different season, or this type of knowing your intuition, your inner calling, versus your ego is telling you don't miss out, don't mess up. So for me, it's a wondrous way of being, as in it's definitely connected to the divine. It's definitely aligned to heading into your life and soul purpose. But it's not like a linear and like, these are the steps. This is my program. You 4 weeks and you do it. It's very much you go and explore and you find the wonders yourself. So
I love that. So do you, how do you hone that skill in you have a 12-week program as well, right?
yes, I used to run this, and now I'm like sort of revamping it, because I feel like sometimes we need to have a really good starting point, and everyone is a different place. So I'm offering like more like a, I would call it a mapping for a hero or shiro journey mapping, to know exactly who you are, where you are first, before we consider what level of coaching program is best. But so for me, it is like a journey, and it's always much more fun when you do it with someone else, like a mentor or a friend, and we can't do it alone. Like, none of this,
No.
it's alone. Like,
Yeah.
growth, it's with your soul family.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'm just trying to collect in my thought. And this is why I don't do these interviews at nighttime, because my brain definitely is much slower in the evening than it is in the morning. But I was just reviewing, I was watching something, and that's exactly what they were speaking to, is that, it's been shown and proven that we actually integrate what we learn that much faster when we're in community than when we try to do this stuff on our own. Sure, we can all read a book, we can all do an online program in our offices or at home, but when we actually get an opportunity to integrate it with others, with community, within community, we really thrive. We really start thriving. So I echo what you say 100% and wholeheartedly. So if there's something you would like to let the Freedom Seeker audience in on regarding SoulCare to stay grounded and connected, what would that be?
I think like everyone have their own way of what works for them. So I usually like line up like this is my toolbox, see which one resonate. I think like for me definitely is meditation and journaling and sometimes oracle cards. That really helps me to figure something out. But being in nature, like who will object to that, right? If you're not a meditation person, that's okay. There's meditation as in you can dance, you can draw, you can paint, you can walk in the forest. Doesn't matter. It's about getting your mind cleared. I think whatever you do is about not emptying your mind, but having a quiet mind space, because sometimes it can be very bad neighborhood,
Very loud.
that
Yes,
very
very
loud
busy.
and dangerous and talk you into something not so great. So I think whatever you do is to get yourself into that clarity. And I love being in nature, go for walks, spending time with animals, spending time with babies and children. Just have yourself feeling clear and feeling good. That's the first step, whichever way you get into it. Like I do have my morning ritual, which I do meditation, a bit of yoga, and a journal. And I also love energy medicine. That's a really fast way to pump up your energy. And for me, it works. Not everyone like that kind of stuff, but I was trained long time ago to do energy healing. So for me, that resonates. So whatever that feels good. Some people like to read for a little bit. So I always have an inspirational book that by my side. And I think some days I don't feel like doing one thing, but I really feel like doing another. So I have a few tools lying around. But I think
I love that.
having a habit of doing something for yourself, caring for your soul, craft for 30 minutes in the morning undisturbed, that's your first step. And then you can fill it in with whatever gets you to that place. So I don't prescribe 5 things you must do one after another. I would rather to say this is a toolbox, pick whatever you like, but make sure you have a bit of time by yourself and figure it out what works for you.
Oh, so good. Boom, SzeWing. That was really good, and I love that. And I would love to hear from you, the listeners or viewers, what you really like to do for yourself as well. Like, what are some of the tools in your toolbox? Because I love and prescribe to that concept of having a few. And when we share them in a community like this, we might pick up one that we haven't even thought of or that we've never tried. And we could add into our toolbox. And like you said, try it on. And if it works, maybe some days, but not all days, great. If it doesn't work at all, take it out and replace it with something else. But I love the idea of or the concept of starting your day off with taking care of yourself first, nurturing your own body, mind, and soul before you give yourself away to everybody else, whether it's your children, whether it's your husband, whether it's your partner, whether it's your work, 30 minutes to yourself.
Yeah, and being a mom with young children, I have to be strategic. They come on knocking on my door or already in my bed, but God knows when. They just crawl over in the middle of the night. So I have to be very strategic about this. So I will have my music and earbud ready next to me. So as soon as I get up, I meditate, whether it's in bed or downstairs, the living room, doesn't matter. But I have to have it ready because they can interrupt me any moment. So first thing first, because I know how important when it is to me, I have to have all these things lined up the night before. I mean, it's not hard. You make sure you have your earphone, because it's so much better when you meditate, if you meditate with music, to have the earphone rather than on a speaker. So I have everything ready. I may have my gym clothes to do my stretching. I already know what to do with tapping and energy work. So I already have it like all set up. So I just need to get up and do it, because I may not have any time.
Such good tips. So what do you leave us with this final tip? What do you do when you get interrupted in the middle of a meditation?
I would just breathe and say, well, the universe say that I need to kiss my children right now. That's my medicine, and so be it. Rather than like get upset. And I used to get out of the room, like in my head. I mean, I'm not yelling at them 7 a.m. But in my head it's like, can I just like, all these complaints started, and then you already like overrun all the good you have done in the morning, right? Because you get angry. So I would say, okay, the universe say the best medicine for me right now is to kiss my children. And so I would do that and be interrupted. Then not going back and say, I wish I had 5 more minutes. Like, that you just change the whole energy. So I would just go with the flow. Like you said before, you go with the flow. But, be strategic. You try to wake up a little bit earlier so you have a better chance. But 80% I'm good, 20% they just come whenever they feel like. So, but 80% of the time I got it. So I think you just go with the flow if you get interrupted, but be prepared. So you just like lower the chances.
Again, so wise and so awesome, because what I heard you say was to set yourself up for success, have the things ready so that you don't have to overcome yourself every morning, by having to go get your gym clothes and going to get this and that and the other. And then, be flexible with whatever shows up. Yeah, whatever shows up, because you never know why and if that, what the purpose and reason was for that interruption. So wise.
And I noticed that, like, let's say I got interrupted today for some reason, but if I like don't get into me, don't fight it, go with the flow.
Yeah.
What happens in my psyche is that night I will go to bed earlier, because I really want to have my full 30 minutes, whatnot. So I tend to go to bed a little bit earlier, because I really find it so juicy. I want to do it, and I hope I won't be interrupted twice in a row. So I have more incentive. So I use it as a compelling myself to do better for the next day, rather than get grumpy with it.
And grumpy with a force that you can't really control, right? Like, there's, so wise. And I love this conversation. If you love this conversation as well, please give us a thumbs up or some hearts. We would love to hear from you. SzeWing is in our community. If you have any questions at all, I'm sure will be happy to answer them in the comments below. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us, and all the way from the other continent, the other side of the world. And I wish you, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you a really wonderful day. And and I'm going to take care of myself now as well. And I hope to talk with you again very, very soon. This was such a great conversation.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me and making exception to do this in this weird hour for you.
Being flexible, SzeWing. Being flexible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.